Well, it's Wednesday. You said you'd have a Kevin King update, so I can barely do it.
Go ahead, Rob. Just fire away, man.
Is there any update on Kevin King's possible situation for this week playing?
Yeah, we're going to give him through the week, but he will not be out at practice today.
I'm just wondering, in relation to everything that's happened this week with Gruden and stuff, where do you think NFL workplace culture is at right now? Do you think things are gradually getting better, or is there still a lot more work to do?
Well, you'd like to think it's getting better, and that I know that's certainly not what we're about here. We're all about inclusion, about celebrating each other's differences. Doesn't mean you're going to like everybody, but certainly we respect everybody, and but that's, I can only comment on what we're about with the Green Bay Packers.
What was your reaction when you saw the reports? Were you caught by surprise, or?
Yeah, I think so. I think all of us were. It is a teachable moment, I think, for everybody, within our organization, just everybody in general, just how meaningful what you say and what you write, and how it can affect others, and how it can come back to affect you as well.
What do you see looking at that Bears defense? Does it start with their outside linebackers, or what are you looking at?
Yeah, it starts everywhere. I mean, they got players on all three levels. Certainly, those edge rushers are as good as they get, and I think they're really playing at a high level. I think interiorly, Nichols, Hicks, Goldman, I mean, all those guys are just so disruptive. And then you got the backers. Both those guys, or really all three of the guys inside, can run. Roquan, he's one of the better linebackers in this league. Ogletree, I've got a lot of respect for. I go back to the Rams days with him, and he's still playing at a high level. And you got Danny Trevathan. So I think this, just all in all, it's the best defense we'll have played up to this point. They're just playing at an extremely high level. You see the effort on tape. I want to say Robert Quinn, the first play of the second half versus the Raiders, you see him just running, chasing down a quick pass out in the flat, and they held Oakland to 9 yards on that play or whatever, and then they hold them the next two plays, and the Raiders are punting. So I just think that just anytime you have a great scheme with great players that give great effort, that's a problem. And it's not a surprise to me that they're a top 5 defense.
Matt, with that being said, do you have any updates on Josh or Elton?
Yeah, they'll both be practicing today, and hopeful that they can continue to progress throughout the week. And we'd love to see them there on Sunday, because we're going to need them. I mean, this is like I said earlier, this is just a really sound and physically gifted defense. It's going to be a very, very physical football game, and so we need to be at our best in order to, come out on top.
If they can't go, how confident are you with the depth you've got at that position?
I'm extremely confident with the other guys. They've done an outstanding job, and I think that it showed up the last couple weeks. And certainly, no matter who's in there, we don't. It's not like we lessen our expectations. It's the next man in mentality, and there's a standard here, and we got to make sure that we live up to that standard.
How much has that confidence grown for you just in the last 5 games? I know Aaron was reading off the list of starters last week and said, if you asked me about that months ago, I would have been a little worried, but based on how they performed, they changed it.
Yeah, I think all those guys, and it's been a collective effort. I mean, I think just they prepare the right way. They come to practice each and every day, and they get better. And I think our coaching staff has done a great job of, providing the right information for those guys and putting those guys in a position to be successful. And but ultimately, those guys got to go out there and do it, and they've done it at a pretty high level.
It seemed to be a much more focal point in the offense than most of last season. Any reason that he just hasn't been targeted? Is it just circumstance?
Well, I think if you look at kind of some of the things that we've done the last few weeks to help alleviate some of the pressure up front. We've been using those guys more in chip roles, and it's just hard to, unless you're getting, the late outlets in the flat, it's hard to get as involved in the passing game. But I will say that says a lot about him in terms of just his willingness to buy into the total team concept, because that's not, it doesn't come easy. Certainly, I know he wants his targets, and certainly we'd love to get him the football, but we've had to use them, unfortunately, in some other ways over the last couple weeks.
What stands out to you about Justin Fields and then what he brings to their offense?
Well, he's such a dynamic athlete, and he can make plays in the pocket, and certainly we're going to have to do a great job with our rush lanes in terms of not letting him get out of the pocket. And then they can implement the zone reads, so that's another layer to the offense. So I just think that he's a really good young quarterback that should have a bright future in this league.
I know it's one game at a time, but how much has the Bears rivalry come to mean to you now in your third year?
Yeah, I think it's an NFC North opponent, first and foremost. So those games are just almost twice as meaningful, because if you can win, obviously it's twofold. You're giving that other team a loss. So we've stressed a lot of importance on the North, and certainly just being the longest rivalry in the National Football League. I think it just adds another layer, and it's going to be different going back there. I remember that was the first game of the 2019 season, and that it was so loud there, and the fans were really into it. So we anticipate it being much the same. It's going to be, you got a team that's coming in that's got some momentum. They're 3-2. They've won their last 2 games. They've got a quarterback a young quarterback that's playing pretty well, and their defense is rolling right now. So I would anticipate that it's going to be a pretty chaotic environment.
Can I ask you about a play from Cincinnati? Early in the fourth quarter, you drive down, I think it's a 2nd and goal. This is the one where I think Dillon had a run and Cobb had an incompletion and Mason converted the field goal. But Aaron comes to the line, and you see the center, Patrick, making a declaration, Aaron making a change and called a timeout. Do you remember what happened on that instance? Did you face a defense that you weren't anticipating?
Yeah, so we had a play. It was basically a run pass can, and we didn't get the look. And I think we were just kind of winding down on the clock, so we called the timeout, and we talked about it again, whether or not we wanted that play, and we felt good about it. And I think we only got like a yard or so on the run, unfortunately, but we were hoping for a different look, and they didn't give it to us.
So that's what Cincinnati put up for you, wasn't something within this young group together?
No.
Is 3rd down in red zone, or are those separate days on the practice field?
Yes.
Okay. When you're struggling in red zone, is that Friday?
Yeah.
I guess I only have so many minutes that you can spend, but when you're struggling in a specific area, whether it's red zone or whatever it is, do you spend more time practicing that, or how do you handle that?
Yeah, you try to come up with a better plan and better plays, and I'm not as concerned as everybody else, I would say, about our red zone. I think we'll be fine. I think it's, we're 5 games into this thing, and certainly I think we set a standard a year ago of what it should look like, and we haven't lived up to that standard, and that falls on me. I got to do a better job of giving our guys plays that can be successful versus whatever look the opponents come out in, and it is what it is, and we'll continue to work on it, but I'm not going to panic over it quite yet.
So, Matt, it starts with you, but it's not like you suddenly became a bad play caller in the red zone, right? And it's not like you're not as creative as you were before. So when you examine the 5 games so far, what do you see that either you need to do better, or that teams are just doing a better job against you that you have to overcome?
Yeah, I think I've said this before. I think any time that you're one of the top teams in ball, whether it's scoring, whether it's in the red zone, whether it's on 3rd down, that everybody is studying you. And so you got to continue to evolve and just make sure that you have plays that are conducive to whatever the defense is going to give you. I think the one thing that is a little bit of a challenge for us at times is that teams are going to get maybe go a little bit off script or give you some unscouted looks, and you got to be able to adjust to those. And you certainly want to give your players those looks throughout the course of the week. And but ultimately it comes down to us having just plays that no matter what the look is, that our guys can go out there and execute.
Do one more here.
You mentioned numbers. When do stats start mattering?
I don't. Stats are for losers. Sorry. You guys can have a heyday with that. All I care about is wins and losses. And right now, we lost our first game of the year. We won 4 in a row, and we're trying to go 1-0 this week. So as long as we keep winning, I'll let you guys write about the stats, and we'll just try to keep taking it one game at a time and going 1-0 each week.
Wait,
I guess I'm just wondering when is it?
Do you not know that Bill has a history with that, and that your predecessor told him that too?
Oh, I did not know that. I didn't study Mike McCarthy's press conferences. Sorry.
And he'd start spawning stats like crazy. So it was.
I'm not a big stat guy. I just want to win. I just want to win.
Matt, they wouldn't keep red zone stats if it didn't matter, though. I mean, it's been a stat and important
Sure.
to a lot of coaches. So to switch it over to the other side, that defensive, how much of a concern is that? And how much of that is, what you're doing on defense, how new it is, what are the things you need to simplify?
Well, we've definitely adjusted on the defensive side of the ball. I think that, number one, we were trying to find our identity and who we were and what we wanted to be. I think certainly there's a philosophy to every phase of the game, and I think we have switched, but we got to go out there and execute now. So you can sit here and say whatever you want, but ultimately all that matters is you go out there, you give the guys the work they need, and we got to go out there and execute and perform. And we're always going to look at, did we put our guys in position to make plays? And if the answer is no, then you got to look internally, and you got to find something new or just tweak whatever it is you're doing.
We gotta go to Zoom, guys. We gotta get on practice. Sarah, go ahead.
We have two, one Ryan Wood.
Hey, Matt, just following up on the defense, I know after, you mentioned with the lack of preseason snaps, it just looks like the defense has really found its groove since then. Do you almost look at it in retrospect like that maybe was the preseason for a defense that hadn't really played together at a full level, and do you think that had anything to do with how much better it's looked lately?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of truth to that, probably. I also think our coaches have done a really good job of adjusting to certain things. And I think there's always a learning curve when you're talking about a new staff that's together. There's certainly a learning curve for our players in how we adjust to certain things. And, hopefully we continue to make those steps, and we're not close to peaking. That's the goal, is that we continue to get better and better each and every week. And, certainly this last game, I want to say, I did think that was by far our best defensive performance. Anytime an opponent has 12 drives, they score on 9 of them. Yes, we got to get better in the red zone, so there's always room for improvement. But I thought our guys were in pretty good position for most of the game. I think they're playing very, very hard. I think they're playing together. The communication's better. But I think ultimately as a team that there's a lot more out there for us, certainly on special teams and on the offensive side of the ball. I don't think we were anywhere near where we can be or should be. And we didn't play up to the level that we expect of ourselves. So that's always encouraging whenever you come off a win and you don't think you played your best. Now, you always want to give the opponent a lot of credit, because there's a reason why potentially you didn't play your best, and you got to give those guys the credit. So, but we're going to continue to grind and try to work each and every day to get better and better and better, and hopefully at the end of this thing we'll be hitting our peak.
The last one, Aaron Nagler.
Coach, I don't want to touch the third rail with any stats here, but something that was a hallmark of your offense last year was the efficiency on early downs. You did a great job in 2020 of staying ahead of the sticks. Not so much this year. Can you pinpoint why that is? Is it not being effective at a running game? Is it so much shotgun spread? What's going on that you guys are you're falling into a lot of get back on track scenarios like you did in 2019?
Yeah, there's no doubt, and that's an important part of it. I think some of it, you gotta give credit, like I just talked about, to the defense, but ultimately, we gotta go out there and execute better. There were many plays in that game that I thought there were opportunities to gain yards, and we're losing yards. So some of that was, in the pass game. Some of it was in our running game in terms of we threw a couple run alerts that went out there and we lost yardage on that were where I thought the decision-making behind why we threw it out there was on point, and we just got to make sure we're getting our blocks or whatever it may be. But yeah, you're dead on. You got to stay ahead of the sticks in this game, and that's going to be an important part against the Chicago Bears defense. Is anytime you're going against these elite level defenses, you don't want to be in those third and long yardage situations because it's very, very difficult.